Changes in economic and social sectors. Introduction. The economic policies of the British during the second half of the 19th century made different regions of India interdependent. This helped for the growth of common economic life among Indians. India was reduced to that of supplier of raw materials at cheaper rates. India exports of rupees 15 crores in 1834 increased to 758 crores by 1924. This increase strengthened the sovereignty of the British over India, but it did not better the economic conditions of Indian people. Agriculture. The state of agriculture was very poor in the first half of the 19th century because of indebtedness of cultivators to village money lenders. From the second half of the 19th century, the area under cultivation expanded. The decline in the production of food grains was due to the demand for commercial crops like cotton, jute, and oilseeds. As a result of increase of commercial crops, production of food grains declined. Another factor contributing to the backwardness of agriculture in India was small holdings of land. Famines in India between 1858 to 1947. Indian agriculturalists mostly dependent on monsoon rains. The British neither introduced scientific methods of cultivation nor provided any irrigational facilities. Failure of monsoons brought frequent famines in India. Lakhs of people died due to starvation, undernourishment, and widespread epidemics. The government appointed Famine Commissions. The following recommendations were made by Famine Commission besides formulating famine codes. In 1883, the British government decided to allocate 15 million rupees every year for famine relief and insurance. There was a severe famine in Bengal in 1943. During the period of World War II, Japan attacked the eastern borders of India and occupied Burma. During the British rule, the famines were very severe and more frequent. Development of irrigational facilities. In the pre-British period, the native kings provided irrigational facilities by getting wells, canals, and tanks dug. As you have read, either the British did not pay any attention to such facilities before the Famine Commission suggested to do so. The most important canal of his time was Canal of Ganges. The crops in irrigated areas were to cost more because the peasants were to pay water charges. This compelled the farmers to grow commercial crops which would fetch more price in the market than the food grains. Transport facilities. Till the middle of 19th century, the transport system in India was not developed. The first railway line was laid between Bombay and Thane in 1853. Dalhousie, the then Governor-General, encouraged the quick development of railways. All the important towns and cities were connected by railways. During Dalhousie's period, the roadways to the extent of 2,000 miles were laid. A grand trunk road was laid between Calcutta and Punjab, on which a number of bridges were constructed. Dalhousie introduced telegraph and cheap postage also in India. All these facilities and developments in transportation were not meant to promote India's economic development, but they were necessary for systemic exploitation of India in the interest of Britain. Beginning of modern industries. A few modern industries were started in India in the later half of 19th century, but were mostly owned and controlled by British companies. Even though some Indians owned industries, they could not develop them because of the discouraging attitude of the government. The Vande Mataram movement, started by the extremist Congress leader Bal Gangadhar Tilak, included the program of boycott of foreign goods and production of Swadeshi goods. Indigo was grown in Bengal and Bihar. It had great demand in England for their textile industry as dyes were manufactured from indigo. Tea also was exported to England in 19th century and tea was grown in Assam, Bengal and South India. India topped in world tea market by the beginning of 20th century. Tea, coffee, cinchona and rubber were exported to England. The first cotton mill was started in Bombay in 1853 and textile industry made a steady progress. Indian jute mills enjoyed the position of monopoly till the end of 19th century. In 1845, work in coal mines began in India. Coal was an important source of power in all industries. Railways were the highest consumers of coal. Coal was largely available in Bengal, Bihar and Orissa. Rise of new classes in Indian society. With the development of industries, three new classes emerged in India: industrialists and industrial workers. Another class consisted of those who received English education, joined British government service. Many people took up professions of law, teaching, engineering, medicine and business, etc. The educated section of people was the intelligentsia of the country, which was called the middle class, if that, those who earned their livelihood by extending their services to the country. This educated class understood the British political institutions and came to know how the British people enjoyed liberty, equality and fraternity in their country. Religious and social reform movements and cultural awakening. English education played an important role not only in bringing advanced ideas and modern science to India, but also made the Indian people think and realize the defects and evils of Indian society, such as divisions and inequalities created by the caste system in Indian society, oppression of women, certain inhuman practices like sati, child marriage, infanticide, etc. Consequently, there was a growing awareness among the people of the backwardness of Indian society caused by superstitions associated with religious beliefs. Rammohan Roy and Brahma Samaj. Rammohan Roy was the pioneer of many social and religious reforms in modern India. He studied Sanskrit at Benares and learnt Arabic and Persian at Patna. Later, he learnt many more languages like English, Greek, Hebrew, French and Latin. He wanted to eradicate the abuses that had crept into Hinduism. He believed in the unity of God and opposed idol worship, caste system and rituals. He launched a campaign for the abolition of sati. To achieve his objects, he established Brahma Sabha at Calcutta on August 20, 1828, which was called Brahma Samaj from 1930. As he was moved by the scene when the wife of his elder brother was forced to commit sati, Rammohan worked hard for abolition of sati and achieved it in 1829 in spite of opposition from many Orthodox Hindus. Raja Rammohan Roy died in Bristol, England in 1833. After the death of Rammohan Roy, Brahma Samaj was divided into many sects. Debendranath Tagore and Keshab Chandra Sen were the most important leaders who advocated Brahma Samaj all over India. In Andhra, Rajahmundry and Kakinada were the popular centers of Brahma Samaj. The famous social reformers like Kandukuri Veerasalingam, Raghupati Venkataratnam Naidu and Raja of Pittapuram were the supporters of Brahma Samaj. Dayananda Saraswati and Arya Samaj. The Arya Samaj was established by Dayananda Saraswati in 1875 at Bombay to enhance the glory of Hinduism. He was born in an orthodox Brahmin family of Gujarat in 1824. He studied Vedas at Mathura. He gave the slogan "Back to Vedas." He advocated 10 principles, of which the following 3 were important. 1. The authority of Vedas. 2. Faith in only one God. 3. Opposition to idol worship. The rest were tenets of virtues and morals. Arya Samaj established a large number of schools and colleges called DAV, Dayanand Anglo-Vedic Institutions, for the education of girls and boys. Dayanand was a great patriot and worked hard for the political emancipation of India. Hyderabad became an important center of Arya Samaj. Ramakrishna Mission. Ramakrishna Paramahamsa was a priest in a temple of goddess Kali in Dakshineshwar near Calcutta. To propagate the teachings of Ramakrishna and to implement them, Ramakrishna Mission was founded in 1897 by Swami Vivekananda. This mission stood for social service and believed in the principle of service to mankind is service to God. Swami Vivekananda denounced untouchability, poverty, and suppression of women. Swami Vivekananda studied Indian and Western philosophies. Vivekananda participated in the Parliament of Religions at Chicago in USA in 1893 and impressed the Americans with his speech and enhanced the prestige of Hinduism and Indian culture. Movement among Muslims for social reforms. During the early years of 19th century, only a few Muslims from Delhi and Calcutta received English education. Majority of Muslims kept themselves away from English education as their ulemas and upper-class Muslims had resentment towards British rule and English education. At this stage, a few Muslims who received English education launched movements to spread modern education to remove social abuses like polygamy and parda systems. Syed Ahmad Khan not only advocated the removal of social abuses which kept the Muslim community backward, but also emphasized the unity between Hindus and Muslims as both belong to one nation. Ishwarachandra Vidyasagar. Ishwarachandra was born in a poor Brahmin family in 1820 and studied Sanskrit and became a great scholar. For his great learning, the Sanskrit College in Calcutta conferred on him the title of Vidyasagar. He was associated with many journals and newspapers in Bengal and wrote many inspiring articles on the needed social reforms. Literature, language and arts. Literature in every modern Indian language which was written in 19th century was different from that of previous period. The ancient literature was mostly composed in verse and the subject matter was religion, mythology and description of nature. Now, writing of prose became the fashion of the day and novels, essays, dramas and short stories substituted the old writings. These writings described social changes, problems and struggles of the people and promoted awareness of social problems and contributed for the rise of patriotism and nationalism. Growth of press. Though the early newspapers were started by the British in the later half of the 19th century, the newspapers started by Indians either in English or in Indian languages became the powerful instruments for mobilizing people into freedom struggle. The newspapers were the media of the people through which the grievances and demands were ventilated. The then popular newspapers which inspired the Indian people to participate in freedom movement were the Hindu, Amrit Bazar Patrika, the Maratha, the Indian Mirror, the Swadeshi Mitra, the Hindu Prakash, etc. Growth of science. Teaching of science was not included in the old Indian curriculum. Indian reformers thought that it was the reason for Indian backwardness. So Rammohan Roy and others demanded English education in which study of science was included. In all Indian universities, science departments were created. Many Indians not only studied science but mastered it. Mahendralal Sarkar was the first Indian medical student. He founded Indian Association for the Cultivation of Science in 1876. Consequently, our country could produce scientists of international reputation. Sir C.V. Raman was given the Nobel Prize for his outstanding work in physics in 1930. S. Ramanujan was one of the greatest mathematicians of this century. In the field of engineering and technology, Mokshagundam Vishveshwaraya was the most outstanding personality that India had ever produced. The other eminent persons in the field of science were P.C. Roy, J.C. Bose, Satyen Bose, D.N. Varia, Birbal Sahani and Meghnad Saha.